So what's new? There's three things I want to talk about here. One is the new espresso courses that we've got on the Eigen Academy. At the last user forum, I talked about the new Eigen Academy we had and the online training courses. Well, we've added to this now, and we've got some espresso courses which just focus on one aspect and let you go into detail in one area rather than having the broad course that covers everything. We've also got the new Office 365 connector that Miles will go into detail on later. And we've got the event track component. We originally introduced this at the last user forum as well. I'm just going to show you a bit more detail on some of the stuff we've done with that since. Okay, so the Eigen Academy espresso courses. There's 4 courses. There's charting, virtual calculations, KPIs, and the basics of the data model. This is the Eigen Academy website. If you go to courses at the top left, there's now a new menu item called Espresso Courses. If you click that, then you get access to the 4 courses. And what you'll see is, say if we take the charting one, what we have is 7 topics, and we've condensed the lessons on charting from across the whole Eigen Academy into just one course. So if you need to go into detail on one particular thing, you can go from novice to expert in like one step, in one espresso course, rather than having to go through the whole academy, which would take longer. So you can't quite do the whole, if you did all the espresso courses, you wouldn't quite do the whole academy, and you'll miss a little bit of the more wider and background stuff. But they're a great way to just get the information you need on one topic. Okay, the Eigen Events Connector. So we originally had an events connector last year, but we've done a lot of work this time to add all the events we generate in Eigen into it. So we can now start publishing the different types of events, from simple user limits to barrier impairments and blowdown analyses. I'm just briefly going to show you where it is, but Miles is going to do a full demo later on. If you go to Office 365 and go to the apps and select the Power Automate app, then under the Connectors tab, this lets you search for all the available data connectors. If you just search for Eigen, that's the simplest way to do it. It brings up our events connector is the only result, and it's there. You obviously need an instance of Ingenuity installed in your environment in order to be able to use it and generate events. But this is how you access the connector, and Miles will show you how to set it up and what you can do. But we're really excited about this one because it's going to unlock loads of really cool stuff that people can do. Okay, the events track component. So we mentioned this last time. The events track allows you to combine data from different sources into a timelined track. It was originally based on the Apple GarageBand idea, where you can mix music tracks together. This is an example of it in use in a report where we've laid it underneath a trend, and it's pulling in the events related to that trend. But what you can do is build up these compound displays. And this is one we were working on with Lundin, where we've pulled together work orders, the equipment history, some time series data, some shutdown data from Sentinel, and some inhibits from the Honeywell SIS system. So I've got an example of that in one of my pages. So I can just show you it live briefly. And here, what you can see is it allows you to pull together all this information together in one place. And then when you hover over it with the cursor, you can see what happened when. So when something happened, what were the events going on in other systems related to this piece of equipment? So it's really powerful to help you tell the story of maybe what happened to a piece of equipment or over time on an asset. It's very simple to use, but what we're aiming to do is bring up or build up a library of pre-configured tracks. So you don't need to know how to write the query to get the data from the system. You just enter a few filter parameters, like say the tag name. Okay, the next thing we've been working on is the Eigen Analytics platform. What we've realized is Eigen Ingenuity actually comprises of two things. We've got the front end piece, which people are familiar with and interact with, and we've got all the stuff in the back end. And actually, it's a separate thing. We've been calling it one thing, but what we're now doing is we're going to talk about it separately. So you have the Eigen Analytics platform and Eigen Ingenuity. I've got a slide on that in just a sec. But we've added a whole new section to our website now on the Eigen Analytics platform and what it does. And we've got videos on there and use cases about how we've used it to solve problems. Here's an illustration of now how we're splitting Ingenuity from the analytics platform. Ingenuity is the visualization piece. It's what you'll interact with to make a dashboard or a report or trend something. The analytics platform is everything that sits behind the scenes to enable that. So it's the data connectors and the knowledge graph and the search functionality. So we tried to make a drawing to show all the aspects of the analytics platform that are kind of hidden, that you may not see. So things like we've got the transformation engine, the calculations, they're actually done on the server side, and through Ingenuity have a user interface to configure those. We have all the data connectors. We have all the stuff like user authentication behind the scenes and adding people to groups. We've got event detection that runs in the background. So that's all part of the platform. And then we can install that in different ways. We can put Ingenuity on the top, which is Confluent, so it's completely user configurable, but we can also make custom dashboards and use the same components, but then it's not user configurable. It's in a branded, styled company portal with their information that goes through a proper change management process. So you'll start to hear us talk more about the Eigen Analytics platform and Eigen Ingenuity separately. Okay, some other behind the scenes updates. We've done a lot of work on logging the performance behind the scenes because there's a lot going on now, and sometimes we see delays in the front end and it's hard to troubleshoot where exactly they've come in. So the guys have been adding this thing called Prometheus logging behind the scenes, and this starts to give us metrics. I've got an example of that now here. Let me move my Zoom window, which is covering my thing. Here we are. Prometheus logging. So this is an example where we're monitoring the performance of one of our data sources. And we can see that most of the time it's very, very good, but occasionally there'll be these slowdowns in different aspects of it. And so this is allowing us to get much better visibility and troubleshoot things and get to the bottom of stuff. So it's not something as a user you'll use, but it helps us deliver a much better service and respond to things much quicker. We've done some improvements under the scene to the sliding aggregates calc. Sliding aggregates allows us to do things like calculate averages, standard deviations, mean and max, things like that, typical statistics over a data set. We have two different functions in the calculation historian for this. One operates on a single time series and does it over a sliding window. The other operates across a set of tags, but all at the same time. The sliding ag that operates across the window of time is quite a processor intensive calculation because you have to pull a lot of data and then hold all of it in memory for the window that you want to aggregate across. When we get to raw data, this can be extremely data intensive and it can really put a load on the server side stuff. So the guys have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try and speed that up, and they have made some significant improvements, including using the aggregate functions of the source system wherever possible to provide those averages instead of us having to do it. Okay, we've got a new feature where we can annotate items in an event log. So I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. This is a report that we're building with Wintershall there, and this is actually an events track underneath it here. It's a lot of the controls are hidden. It's in what's called compressed view. But for certain of the events, we've enabled this feature where you can annotate it. So you can categorize it, and then you can add a comment against it as well. And then that gets saved and it will always be returned whenever this particular event is returned. And this is really powerful because you can, when you combine that with, say, an events track component, you can start annotating the story of things and adding knowledge to when things happened. Okay, finally, the common menu, we're now able to unify data from both Eigen and Cognite CDF in a single common menu call. So I have an example of it here. If I pick a well and get the common menu up, to return the measurements, we query both the Eigen and the Cognite data models. And this gets particularly interesting when, so this is the alerts. This combines alerts or events across all sources, and it's pretty quick. It gets very interesting when we look at related assets, because then we can see what's in the CDF related assets and what's in the Eigen data model at the same time and combine them. And we can pull in documents linked across both. So for the users, this is really great because it means whatever the data source, we're able to combine the data in a single place in the common menu so you can find everything.